Well, it's Wednesday. I think it's exactly 6 o'clock. We shall see. Anyway, my dears, here we are. This is a little on the low side. Let me just get one more book. Let's see what we can do here. Excuse me, I should have been properly prepared beforehand. Okay. That may be better. Yes, I think that's better. All right. Tonight, rather than a piece of fiction, I'm going to bring something rather in the nature of a public service announcement. This is from The New Yorker. It was published in 1968, and it's by an author named Rust Hills, who was for many years the fiction editor at Esquire. And this is called, or is entitled, How to Eat an Ice Cream Cone. As I said, it's a public service. So, by Rust Hills, How to Eat an Ice Cream Cone. Before you even get the cone, you have to do a lot of planning about it. We'll assume that you lost the argument in the car and that the family has decided to break the automobile journey and stop at an ice cream stand for cones. Get things straight with them right from the start. Tell them that after they have their cones, there will be an imaginary circle 6 feet away from the car, and that no one, man, woman, or especially child, will be allowed to cross the line and re-enter the car until his ice cream cone has been entirely consumed and he has cleaned himself up. Emphasize, automobiles and ice cream cones don't mix. Explain. Melted ice cream, children, is a fluid that is eternally sticky. One drop of it on a car door handle spreads to the seat covers, to trousers, to hands, and thence to the steering wheel, the gear shift, the rearview mirror, all the knobs of the dashboard, spreads everywhere and lasts forever. Which might have to be a nice old car like this, which might have to be abandoned because of stickiness. And you have to go into a new car in secret ways where it spreads in secret ways that even scientists don't understand. If necessary, even make a joke. The family that eats ice cream cones together sticks together. Then let their mother explain the joke and tell them you don't mean half of what you say, and no, we won't be getting a new car. Blessed are the children who always eat the same flavor of ice cream, or always know beforehand what kind they will want. Such good children should be quarantined from those who want to wait and see what flavors there are. It's a sad thing to observe a beautiful young child who has always been perfectly happy with a plain vanilla ice cream cone being subverted by a young schoolmate who has been invited along for the weekend. A pleasant and polite visitor, perhaps, but spoiled by permissive parents and scarred by an overactive imagination. This schoolmate has a flair for contingency planning. Well, I'll have banana if they have banana, but if they don't have banana, then I'll have peach, if it's fresh peach. And if they don't have banana or fresh peach, I'll see what they have that's like that, like maybe fresh strawberry or something. And if they don't have that or anything like that that's good, I'll just have chocolate marshmallow chip or chocolate ripple or something like that. Then, turning to one's own once simple and innocent child, now already corrupt and thinking fast, the schoolmate invites a similar rigmarole. What kind are you going to have? I'm a great believer in contingency planning, but none of this is realistic. Few adults and even fewer children are able to make up their minds beforehand what kind of ice cream cone they'll want. It would be nice if they could all be lined up in front of the man who's making up the cones and just snap smartly when their turn came. Strawberry, please. Vanilla, please. Chocolate, please. But of course, it never happens like that. There is always a great discussion, a great jostling and craning of necks, and leaning over the counter to see down into the tubs of ice cream, and much interpersonal consultation. What kind are you having? Back and forth, as if that should make any difference. Until finally the first child's turn comes, and he asks the man, "What kinds do you have?" Now, this is the stupidest question in the world, because there is always a sign posted saying what kinds of ice cream they have. As I tell the children, that's what they put the sign up there for, so you won't have to ask what kinds of ice cream they have. The man gets sick of telling everybody all the different kinds of ice cream they have, so they put a sign up there that says, you're supposed to read it, not ask the man. All right, but the sign doesn't say strawberry. Well, that means they don't have strawberry. But there is strawberry right there. That must be raspberry or something. Look again at the sign. Raspberry isn't there either. When the child's turn actually comes, he says, "Do you have strawberry?" "Sure." "What other kinds do you have?" The trouble is, of course, that they put up that sign saying what flavors they have with little cardboard inserts to put in or take out flavors way back when they first opened the store. But they never changed the sign, or not often enough. They always have flavors that aren't on the list, and often they don't have flavors that are on the list. Children know this. Whether innately or from earliest experience, it would be hard to say. The ice cream man knows it too. Even grown-ups learn it eventually. There will always be chaos and confusion and mind-changing and general uproar when ice cream cones are being ordered. And there has not been, is not, and will never be any way to avoid it. Human beings are incorrigibly restless and dissatisfied, always in search of new experiences and sensations, seldom content with the familiar. It is this, I think, that accounts for people wanting to have a taste of your cone and wanting you to have a taste of theirs. "Do have a taste of this fresh peach. It's delicious," my wife used to say to me. Very much, I suppose, the way Eve wanted Adam to taste her delicious apple. An insinuating look of calculating curiosity would fill my wife's eyes. The same look those beautiful, scary women in those depraved Italian films give a man they're interested in. "How's yours?" she would say. For this reason, I always order chocolate chip now. Down through the years, all those close enough to me to feel entitled to ask for a taste of my cone, namely my wife and children, have learned what chocolate chip tastes like, so they have no legitimate reason to ask me for a taste. As for tasting other people's cones, never do it. The reasoning here is that if it tastes good, you'll wish you had it. If it tastes bad, you'll have had a taste of something that tastes bad. If it doesn't taste either good or bad, then you won't have missed anything. Of course, no person in his right mind would ever want to taste someone else's cone. But it is useful to have good, logical reasons for hating the thought of it. Another important thing. Never let the man hand you the ice cream cones for the whole group. There is no sight more pathetic than some bumbling, disorganized papa holding 4 ice cream cones in 2 hands with his money still in his pocket, when the man says, 80 cents. What does he do then? He can't hand the cones back to the man to hold while he fishes in his pocket for the money, for the man has just given them to him. He can start passing them out to the kids, but at least one of them will have gone back to the car to see how the dog is doing, or have been sent around in back by his mother to wash his hands or something. And even if Papa does get them distributed, he's still going to be left with his own cone in one hand while he tries to get his money with the other. Meanwhile, of course, the man is very impatient, and the next group is asking him, "What flavors do you have?" No, never let the man hand you the cones of others. Make him hand them out to each kid in turn. That way, too, you won't get those disgusting blobs of butter pecan and black raspberry on your own chocolate chip. And insist that he tell you how much it all costs and settle with him before he hands you your own cone. Make sure everyone has got paper napkins and everything before he hands you your own cone. Get everything straight before he hands you your own cone. Then, as he hands you your own cone, reach out and take it from him. Strange, magical, dangerous moment. It shares something of the mysterious sick thrill that soldiers are said to feel on the eve of a great battle. Now consider for a moment just exactly what it is that you are about to be handed. It is a huge, irregular mass of ice cream, faintly domed at the top from the metal scoop, which has first produced it, and then insecurely balanced on the uneven top edge of a hollow, inverted cone made out of the most brittle and fragile of materials. Clumps of ice cream hang over the side, very loosely attached to the main body. There is always much more ice cream than the cone could hold, even if the ice cream were tamped down into the cone, which of course it isn't. And the essence of ice cream is that it melts. It doesn't just stay there teetering in this irregular top-heavy mass. It also melts. And it melts fast. And it doesn't just melt. It melts into a sticky fluid that cannot be wiped off. The only thing one person could hand to another that might possibly be more dangerous is a live hand grenade from which the pin has been pulled 5 seconds earlier. And of course, if anybody offered you that, you could say, oh, well, no thanks. Ice cream men handle cones routinely and are inured. They are like professionals who are used to handling sticks of TNT. Their movements are quick and skillful. An ice cream man will pass a cone to you casually, almost carelessly. Never accept a cone on this basis. Too many brittle sugar cones, the only good kind, are crushed or chipped, or their ice cream tops knocked askewed by this casual sort of transfer from hand to hand. If the ice cream man is attempting this kind of brusque transfer, keep your hands at your side, no matter what effort it may cost you to overcome the instinct by which everyone's hand goes out almost automatically whenever he is proffered something delicious and expected. Keep your hands at your side, and the ice cream man will look up at you, startled, questioning. Lock his eyes with your own, and then, slowly, calmly, and above all, deliberately, take the cone from him. Grasp the cone with the right hand firmly but gently between thumb and at least 1, but not more than 3 fingers, 2/3 of the way up the cone. Then dart swiftly away to an open area, away from the jostling crowd at the stand. Now, take up the classic ice cream cone eating stance. Feet from 1 to 2 feet apart, body bent forward from the waist at a 25-degree angle, right elbow well up, right forearm horizontal, at a level with your collarbone and about 12 inches from it. But don't start eating yet. Check first to see what emergency repairs may be necessary. Sometimes the sugar cone will be so crushed or broken or cracked that all one can do is gulp at the thing like a savage, getting what he can of it and letting the rest drop to the ground, and then evacuating the area of catastrophe as quickly as possible. Checking the cone for possible trouble can be done in a second or two, if one knows where to look and does it systematically. A trouble spot some people overlook is at the bottom tip of the cone. This may have been broken off, or the flap of the cone material at the bottom, usually wrapped over itself in that funny spiral construction, may be folded in a way that is imperfect and leaves an opening. No need to say that through this opening, in a matter of perhaps 30 or at most 90 seconds, will begin to pour hundreds of thousands of sticky molecules of melted ice cream. You know in this case that you must instantly get the paper napkins in your left hand under and around the bottom of the cone to stem the forthcoming flow, or else be doomed to eat the cone far too rapidly. It is a grim moment. No one wants to eat a cone under that kind of pressure, but neither does anyone want to end up with the bottom of the cone stuck to a messy napkin. There's one other alternative, one that takes both skill and courage. Foregoing any cradling action, grasp the cone more firmly between thumb and forefinger and extend the other fingers so they are out of the way of the dripping from the bottom. Then increase the waist bend angle from 25 degrees to 35 degrees and then eat the cone, allowing it to drip out of the bottom onto the ground in front of you. Experienced and thoughtful cone eaters enjoy facing up to this kind of sudden challenge. So far we have been concentrating on cone problems, but of course there is the ice cream to worry about too. In this area, immediate action is sometimes needed on 3 fronts at once. Frequently, the ice cream will be mounted on the cone in a way that is perilously lopsided. This requires immediate corrective action to move it back into balance. A slight pressure downward with the teeth and lips to seat the ice cream more firmly in and on the cone, but not so hard, of course, as to break the cone. On other occasions, gobs of ice cream will be hanging loosely from the main body, about to fall on the ground, bad, or onto one's hand, far, far worse. This requires instant action, too. One must snap at the gobs like a frog at a swarm of flies. Sometimes trickles of ice cream will be already be running down the cone toward one's fingers, and one must quickly raise the cone, tilting one's face skyward, and lick with an upward motion that pushes the trickles away from the fingers and, as much as possible, into one's mouth. Every ice cream cone is like every other ice cream cone in that it potentially can present all of these problems. But each ice cream cone is paradoxically unique in that it will present the problems in a different order of emergency and degree of severity. It is, thank God, a rare ice cream cone that will present all 3 kinds of problems in exactly the same degree of emergency. It is, with each cone, necessary to make an instantaneous judgment as to where the greatest danger is, and to act. A moment's delay and the whole thing will be a mess before you've even tasted it. If it isn't possible to decide between any of the 3 basic emergency problems, that is, lopsided mount, dangling gobs, running trickles, allow yourself to make an arbitrary adjudication. Assign a head's value to one and a tail's value to the other. Then flip a coin to decide which is to be tended to first. Don't, for heaven's sakes, actually flip a coin. You'll have to dig in your pockets for it, or else have it ready in your hand before you were handed the cone. There isn't remotely enough time for anything like that. Just decide in your mind which came up, heads or tails. And then try to remember as fast as you can which of the problems you had assigned to the winning side of the coin. Probably, though, there isn't time for any of this. Just do something, however arbitrary. Act. Eat. In trying to make wise and correct decisions about the ice cream cone in your hand, you should always keep the objectives in mind. The main objective, of course, is to get the cone under control. Secondarily, one will want to eat the cone calmly and with pleasure. Real pleasure lies not simply in eating the cone, but in eating it right. Let us assume that you have darted to your open space and made your necessary emergency repairs. The cone is still dangerous, still, so to speak, live, but you can now proceed with it in an orderly fashion. First, revolve the cone through the full 360 degrees, snapping at the loose gobs of ice cream. Turn the cone by moving the thumb away from you and the forefinger toward you, so that the cone moves counterclockwise. Then, with the cone still wound, which will require the wrist to be bent at the full right angle toward you, apply pressure with the mouth and tongue to accomplish overall realignment, straightening and settling the whole mess. Then, unwinding the cone back through the full 360 degrees, remove any trickles of ice cream. From here on, some supplementary repairs may be necessary, but the cone is now defused. At this point, you can risk a glance around you. How badly the others are doing with their cones. Now you can settle down to eating yours. This is done by eating the ice cream off the top. At each bite, you must press down cautiously so that the ice cream settles farther and farther into the cone. Be very careful not to break the cone. Of course, you never take so much ice cream into your mouth at once that it hurts your teeth. For the same reason, you never let unmelted ice cream into the back of your mouth. If all these procedures are followed correctly, you should shortly arrive at the ideal, the way an ice cream cone is always pictured, but never actually is when it is handed to you. The ice cream should now form a small dome whose circumference exactly coincides with the large circumference of the cone itself. A small skull cap that fits exactly on top of a larger inverted dunce cap. You have made order out of chaos. You are an artist. You have taken an unnatural, abhorrent, irregular, chaotic form, and from it you have sculpted an ordered, ideal shape that might be envied by Praxiteles or even Euclid. Now at last you can begin to take little nibbles of the cone itself, being very careful not to crack it. Revolve the cone so that its rim remains smooth and level as you eat both ice cream and cone in the same ratio. Because of the geometrical nature of things, a constantly reduced inverted cone still remains a perfect inverted cone, no matter how small it grows, just as a constantly reduced dome held within a cone retains its shape. Because you are constantly reshaping the dome of ice cream with your tongue and nibbling at the cone, it follows in logic and in actual practice, if you are skillful and careful, that the cone will continue to look exactly the same, except for its size, as you eat it down, so that at the very end you will hold between your thumb and forefinger a tiny, idealized replica of an ice cream cone, a thing perhaps 1 inch high. Then, while the others are licking their sticky fingers, preparatory to wiping them on their clothes, or going back to the ice cream stand for more paper napkins to try to clean themselves up, then You can hold the miniature cone up for everyone to see and pop it gently into your mouth. And that is How to Eat an Ice Cream Cone by Rust Hills. I hope you've enjoyed it, my dears. I found it delightful, and I thought, it's time to share this. So there it is, and that is Tales and Cocktails for tonight. It's perfect ice cream cone weather, so that's a thought for tomorrow. I hope I can remember all the instructions. All right, my dears, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday for Tales and Cocktails. Good night.